Welcome to the SCPI Basketball Podcast. It's the first edition. Keith the Molder, Connor Morissette here with you. If you liked our football podcast, these ones will be very similar with basketball. For this first one, we're going to go through the top 10, talk about some difference makers in terms of some players in the LA section, and then what to watch for over the holiday break. There's some tournaments, one in Hawaii and then one in San Diego, so those will be very exciting. Some of the top teams in LA will be featured in those. But, Keith, let's get started with the top 10.
Yep.
And before we do, just general thoughts on LA basketball as we're a couple weeks into the season.
Right, firstly, we got to talk about some transfers. The fact that a lot of teams, some transfers haven't been okayed yet. It's almost like football. The fact that, you're going to have some teams that aren't going to do so well early on in the preseason, but then are going to come in towards league play, and they're going to start to, kind of show themselves. But overall, it's going to be a great season. I think that the city section, they have a lot of talent, especially up north. I think that Northern League, the teams in the Valley, I think they're going to be the ones to watch for. But can't count out the people, from the south, Narbonne, San Pedro, George Washington Prep, all these other squads. Everybody has a chance in the open division.
Kicking off the top 10, number 10, Granada Hills, the only team who's sub 500 on our list so far. So they've played a tough schedule, though. They've had a tough time in the Warrior Classic, but they've competed with Heritage Christian and Hart, and they had a big win to start their season. So that's why I see them as the 10th best team right now. But as we can see with football, a lot of the time the rankings can change very rapidly. We don't have any D2 or D3 teams on this list. So Granada Hills, I see them as not really an open division threat, but maybe a Division I contender.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're playing in a hard league. They're playing up north. The fact that they're going to be playing against the Birminghams, those types of squads, I think it'll strengthen their team. And I think that you're right. I don't know if they're open division yet, but we'll see come league play if they can get some wins. Maybe they can sneak in there, maybe at the A seed or what have you. But yeah, D1 threat for sure.
Number 9, University, one of two undefeated teams on our list. So they haven't had the toughest schedule, but they've won the Whittier tournament. So congrats to them for winning a tournament. Not too many teams on this list can say that. Solid group. In league play, it's going to be tough for them because you play Fairfax, and then, of course, you play Westchester in that Western League. But I think they're pretty solid, and they probably won't win those games, but they have the ability to keep them close.
Right, absolutely. And it comes because of their offense. And two guys, just like to give a shout-out to, whether that's Richard Wilson Jr., 16.4 points per game, but their main scorer, David Chatham, scoring 18.3 points per game. So those two guys, they're kind of the life and blood of that offense for University. The fact that they're 6-0, really hard to do, especially in the non-conference when you're playing teams that you haven't even seen before. To be able to win a tournament just goes to show their testament, and the fact that they're able to play multiple games consecutively and still play at a high level goes to show you that this team is legit.
Yeah, they're definitely a team to look out for. Number 8, the Cougars of Crenshaw, 9-2. They won D1 last year. They just beat up a young Dorsey team, 73-58. And then in Las Vegas, they won 3 of the 4 games in the Legacy Tip-Off Classic. It's a good team.
Yeah.
They'll be competing for an open division spot, and if it's like football, maybe the San Fernando of football, if you don't get that open division place in the playoffs, they'll be a favorite in Division I. Just another solid team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're coming off of they have the state bowl game coming up for football, so they're certainly riding high after all of their success in football. We'll see if they can do it in basketball. They got a great front court. I really like what I've seen from their guys early on. But yeah, Crenshaw, you got to watch out for them. Beating up on Dorsey. Dorsey's a young team, as you mentioned, but certainly no easy task.
George Washington Prep at number 7. They're 6-3. They've been in every game they've played this year, besides when they lost to Loyola in the Beverly Hills tournament, 77-62. I think this is an under-the-radar squad who will be a low-end open division team or a premier D1 squad as we look to the playoffs. But on Twitter, there's been a little bit of talk about them and how they're kind of under the radar and they're a team to watch for, and I agree with that. I think they'll be pretty solid.
Yeah, absolutely. One guy to watch out for as well, Noel Scott, averaging 13.6 points per game. He can score each and every way, really. So when you have a guy like that who's able to lead your offense in this team, in football they're kind of known as not the greatest football squad, but in basketball that's really where they've earned their bread, I guess you could say. The fact that year after year they always produce some of the best quality teams overall their ability to just work together as a team. They never really have one guy who's just the focal point per se, but a lot of different players that can contribute.
Into the top 6, Narbonne at number 6. So they lost at the Pac Shores tournament a couple weeks ago to Westchester 68-50. So you see there's kind of a difference between some of the mid-level LA teams and those teams at the top. And then they were crushed by Bishop Montgomery, who was probably the best team in Southern California. They're led by Kendall Frido, who's a 6'4 senior guard, very talented player. And on any given night, he has the potential to put up a lot of points. So that's why Narbonne's going to be a very tough threat in that Marine League. And just looking at the rest of the top 10, Narbonne, I think they're the premier team in the Marine League, and it has a lot to do with Fry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're also getting a transfer who's going to be, I believe, 6'10", if I'm not mistaken. I've heard some rumblings from the Narbonne folks going to their football games. That's what they say. But that considered, I mean, they're really going to, they were playing Westchester, I believe, earlier this year, and they were giving them some tough play. So Narbonne, they're known for their football, but also, Fry and that offense, they're really explosive. So we'll see how their defense does, especially come league play.
Into the top 5, El Camino Real, they're 5-3 on the year, so they've lost 3 games, but they've been in every game. They lost the semifinals of the Beverly Hills tournament to Long Beach Poly, who eventually lost to Fairfax in the championship game, so a formidable foe there for sure, a close game from El Camino Real in that one. And they're led by Eddie Egan, who's a senior, who's versatile. He's been on our TV show. Really great player. We interviewed him last week at El Camino Real, and 6'3", and his coach Joel Wyatt, they were telling us he loves to guard. He'll guard the big guys if he needs to. He's versatile defensively, on offense. He can kind of do it all for El Camino Real, and they're like every other team pretty much. They're waiting on a couple transfers.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're a perennial power as well. El Camino Real, great coach out there, a really historic program up north in that Valley League. But yeah, this goes to show, when you have a player like that that's willing to do the dirty work, especially defensively, you got a special player. A lot of guys, they just want to score points, but when you have a guy that's willing to go up against big guys and still put up 110%, you can't beat it.
At 4, Birmingham 5-4. There's a team I've seen personally, a good team, but they got killed by Fairfax 81-58. So again, it just shows you the gap between those premier 3 teams and the rest of the LA City section. So they're led by Devonair Detreve, whose brother's now at Utah, who, along with Devonair, led, his name's Devontae, he led Birmingham to the City Section Championship last year. But so what I've noticed from watching Birmingham, it's Detreve and then pretty much everyone else.
Yeah.
They don't really have any other great players, but they're waiting on a 7-foot transfer,
Whoa.
Christian Coloco. So again, I'm not totally sure when he'll be eligible, but I saw him in the layup lines, and I'm kind of excited to see him play, but obviously he can't play yet because he's a transfer. I mean, adding a 7-footer in high school, that's going to be huge, and that'll take some of the pressure off Detreve.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Detreve, he is essentially that program. And also got to give hats off to him for staying with that program. I know that there's a lot of kids that they just want to be the star of a team, and they want to be able to get those offers and go and win championships with a loaded squad. So for him to stay at Birmingham, to be at that school and say, you know what, I'm staying here. I'm not going to a private school. I'm not going to, the Crespies, the Sierra Canyons of Los Angeles, but I'm staying here with Birmingham. I gotta give my hat to you, and once they get that transfer, 7 foot, that doesn't come off, it doesn't come often in high school. So for them to have that, it's going to be huge.
Detreve has an offer right now from UC Santa Barbara, and I've heard that right now they're the leader with him, but he might be waiting on some Pac-12 schools. All right, into the top 3. So I said earlier, Keith, that I thought these 3 teams. Or I said 3 teams in LA I think could win the Open Division, and it's these 3. So Taft is 3, Fairfax is 2 right now, and Westchester is 1. So starting with Taft, they're the second undefeated team on our list, 10-0. So they played a tournament in Texas, and they blew out 3 of the 4 teams they played, and then they won the other game, and it was a little closer. Now they're going to go to Hawaii this week. It must be fun playing for Taft, traveling all over the place. But Kihei Clark, their guard, is one of the better premier players in LA City section. He's going to the best school. He's going to Virginia, ACC basketball, signed with them in the early signing period a couple weeks ago, so congrats to him. And then they have a transfer, Makani Whiteside, who's eligible to play right away. Very talented kid as well, so him and Clark have teamed up to play very well. And then I know that they're might have a transfer big man, Antoine January, but it seems like the people I've talked to, sometimes it looks like he'll be able to play, other times it doesn't. So right now I'm going to say to the Taft fans, he's not on the Max Preps roster. I mean, that doesn't really mean too much, but it just sounds to me like he's not a guarantee.
Right.
If he was a guarantee, that'd be great. Just another big piece and a big playmaker for them. But hey, they have some star-studded players in Clark and Whiteside already. They're 10-0. They look great.
More like wait till January, for him to be able to transfer.
Right.
But looking over at Taft overall, they have a lot of scorers. Ki Clark, 21.3 points per game. Then you also mentioned Whiteside, 16.0 points per game. But a guy I also want to give a shout out to is Demetrius Callum. His ability to hit the three early and often, 14.8 points per game. So this Taft squad, they're undefeated right now, for a reason. The fact that they can score at every single level and, great guard play, great coaching. They're a premier team in this city section.
Yeah, it seems like all the good teams have good guards. I think the interior play is going to determine who will be the champion this season. At 2, Fairfax, they're 5-1. So they won the Beverly Hills tournament last week after beating Long Beach Poly. And now they're going to play in Hawaii as well. It must be nice. So they're led by the guards, Ethan Anderson, Jamal Hartwell, and then they have a great center in Kirk Smith. So that's 3 kind of key players for Fairfax. And, they're the perennial power. They look very good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Their whole front court is just fantastic. They're not undersized per se. I mean, they're lacking a big guy like, potentially Birmingham could have. But I think when you have guys that are so athletic, they have guys that can score each and every way, I think it's going to be dangerous. And I think that what makes them so dangerous is the fact that they have so many weapons offensively. And it creates matchup nightmares in the fact that you have to guard everybody. You can't leave anybody open or else they'll really take advantage.
At 1, Westchester. Right now they're 1 because of a loss, if you can believe it or not. They were so close to upsetting Bishop Montgomery. They lost 51-50.
Wow.
So they're 1 because we thought that the fact that they were playing the best team in Southern California that close, that kind of opened some people's eyes. It looked like Fairfax was the premier team, and who knows, they still very well could be. But I don't think people expected them to be that close with Bishop Montgomery, and so that's why Westchester at 7-1 is number 1. That game was on December 2nd, so very early in the year. And they're led by 2 guards, Jeremiah Turley and Jordan Brinson, just more excellent guard play from Westchester. But those league games between Westchester and Fairfax, those are going to be incredible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a lot of great defense as well. Looking over Westchester, I mean, we're here at USC right now. Got to give a shout out to Elijah Stewart, the former Westchester guard, former City Section Player of the Year back in the day. And they have a long history of winning games. We'll see how they do come league play. We'll see if they can be the better of Fairfax. I think they could win it all.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, those 3 teams, Taft, Fairfax, Westchester, I think all 3 have a shot. So quickly, I just want to highlight, we did a preseason football watch list, which was a little bit more elaborate on Twitter, but in terms of just guys to watch for who we just touched on, just to kind of highlight them separately. So Kendall Fry from Narbonne is a player we're watching. Eddie Egan from El Camino Real. Devonair Dutrieve from Birmingham. Ki Clark and Makani Whiteside from Taft. Ethan Anderson, Jamal Hartwell, and Kirk Smith from Fairfax. And Jeremiah Turley and Jordan Brinson from Westchester. So those are the best players in the section, guys, to look out for. And then how can you stay up to date with high school basketball in LA over the holidays? Well, there's the Hawaiian tournament December 15th to the 20th, which features Fairfax and Taft. So really the best schools in LA are going to keep playing no matter what's going on in the world. And then in Torrey Pines Holiday Classic, which is December 27th and December 30th, Fairfax and Westchester will be playing in those tournaments. So if you're got some city section pride and you want to see how these city section teams fare against some of the best of the best, keep that Hawaii tournament on your radar. Keep that Torrey Pines Holiday Classic and San Diego tournament on your radar, because really the 3 best teams in LA, that's where they'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this non-conference schedule as well. I mean, a lot of teams are still playing a lot of Southern Section foes, and so it'll be interesting to see how they fare. That Sierra Canyon game with Granada Hills, that'll be a big one, a big test for them early on. But yeah, overall, we'll keep you guys updated on Twitter, and we'll always have the basketball podcast. So make sure and tune in every week.
Absolutely, couldn't have said it any better myself. This has been the first episode of the SCPI Basketball Podcast. For Keith DeMolder, I am Connor Morissette. We'll see you next time.